This video was brought to you by Squarespace.
It's not a thing.
Doom? And gloom? Hold on, did I hear you clearly? Sensationalism too? Well, now that's a scoop. I'll record it right now. Love you, Mom. So, Xbox has been in the news a pretty good amount recently. Just last week, Phil Spencer announced he's retiring from his position as head of Xbox. Sarah Bond, long thought to be his eventual successor, is also leaving. Phil is instead being replaced by Asha Sharma, who comes from Microsoft's AI division. I talked about all this in a recent video, so check it out if you feel so inclined. So naturally, things are weird at Xbox right now, and of course, things have been weird at Xbox for a long time. But this week, the hot topic comes from Seamus Blackley, who helped create the original Xbox itself. He did an interview with GamesBeat, and I cannot recommend reading the whole thing enough. He's had a very interesting career, and whether or not you agree with the thesis we're gonna discuss in this video, I feel that his thoughts here are extremely interesting. We're gonna move through some bits of this interview as we go, but the general idea he's throwing out there is that Xbox, as a gaming business, at least as it currently functions, is being sunsetted. He believes that, according to Microsoft, AI is the future, and that's why they put Sharma in charge. Early on in the interview, he says, Satya Nadella has made an incredible number of bets and invested an incredible amount of money and credibility in the transform model AI future. Xbox, like a lot of businesses that aren't the core AI business, is being sunsetted. They don't say that, but that's what's happening. I expect the new CEO, Asha Sharma, her job is going to be as a palliative care doctor who slides Xbox gently into the night. I love a good analogy, and that one is very vivid. A+. So naturally, there are two things we got to consider here. One, this is a really, really huge claim. Like, the idea that Xbox is essentially being shut down completely, it's wild. And two, this man does not work for Microsoft. He only worked on Xbox very briefly and left right after launch. As far as we know, he has zero insider knowledge. Like, you can't even call this a rumor. This is purely a theory being presented by one guy. And as a fellow one guy, take it from me, our theories are often wrong. But I really want to examine what he's saying here, because even if this claim is so huge and so sensational that it's tempting to just throw it out, I absolutely think it's worth considering. Because honestly, at least to me, it just sounds too plausible. It just sounds too plausible. But let's look at some more of that interview. One really big red flag for Mr. Blackley is Asha Sharma's background. He feels that it's no coincidence she comes from AI, and he doesn't believe that she actually cares about games. On that latter point, I mean, he may be right. You know, there's a big hubbub right now where people are accusing her of not really being a gamer, you know, even accusing her of writing her social media post with AI. And she's responded by sharing her gamer tag and talking about her favorite games. So, like, she's clearly played at least some games, but her account is only like a month old, which, yeah, it's pretty damning, not gonna lie. Personally, I'm not particularly interested in pursuing these kinds of real gamer witch hunts. But of course, it is true that putting someone in charge of something they don't really understand would be pretty foolish. Even if you could also argue that Phil seemed like a real gamer, and he didn't save Xbox, so I don't know. Whatever the case though, Blackley had this to say. It just seems really true. I imagine asking somebody if it made sense to put a major motion picture studio into the hands of somebody who didn't like movies, or a major record label into the hands of somebody who'd never seen a live show. Why would you do that? Well, you only do that if you're looking at the problem in a more abstract way. The natural consequence of the focus on AI is that AI abstracts every problem from the minds of the executives who believe in it. We're abstracting the problem of games as well. There's a core belief, and you can see it in what Satya said, that AI will subsume games like it will subsume everything. So it's not just that she doesn't come from a gaming background business-wise, and may or may not be that into playing games, He feels that her AI background was a very deliberate choice on the part of Microsoft. He says, "The job of all these people is to just gently usher all of these business units into the new world of AI. That's what you're seeing here. Whether or not you agree with it, whether you agree with AI having the potential to do that, whether AI will be successful is a separate matter. But that's what we're seeing. That is in no way surprising. It would have been shocking if they had somebody in there in a meaningful role who was passionate about games, passionate about the creator-driven business of games, because it would be in direct conflict with everything else Microsoft is doing. Microsoft is a company that is now about enabling its customers by enabling AI to drive things. That's at odds with the auteur model of any art, but specifically of games." And this is where Mr. Blackley's words make a lot of sense to me, because it is objectively true that we are seeing Microsoft, like all tech companies, go all in on AI. We are seeing an unprecedented push for this new technology. They are pursuing it harder than any tech that came before it. And it very well may end up being more disruptive than any tech that came before it. That's why they all want in on it. Technology has been replacing humans since the Industrial Revolution. Since then, we see these technological breakthroughs. They replace a lot of jobs, but they often manage to create new jobs as well, so it's not all bad news. But AI is not the same as these past advancements. Up until now, regardless of what kind of machine we could make, we've still needed human brains to run them and keep everything working and to create all the stuff that can't be done with a robot arm and a conveyor belt or a microchip. Any industry or field that requires talking, thinking, planning, conceptualizing, creating. Until now, technology has largely been helping humans do their jobs. But AI can do these things now. Especially as it advances, it gains the ability to emulate the human brain. That's why it's so dangerous, because it's not only emulating a human brain, but a human brain with the computational power of a computer, with access to basically all human knowledge and media ever stored on the internet. One person typing prompts into a little box can already replace entire teams, and this problem is only getting worse and will only continue to get worse. And of course, this has got basically every big corporation in the world, Microsoft very much included, slobbering. They all want to be first to develop the AI models they can provide to us as services, making money in that way. But they also want to save as much money as possible, to replace as many humans as possible. And this gets brought up a lot, but it's not conspiracy theory. It's just not. This is a fact. There is no reason to believe otherwise based on literally everything that we know about corporate capitalism. In some ways, naturally, this is a smart move, you know? Yeah, obviously, if Microsoft can replace 95% of their workforce, they're going to save and thus make a whole lot of money. But on the other hand, we can also see that they're taking this AI thing a bit too far. They're spending billions and billions on it. Everyone is, but none of it is actually generating a significant profit yet. It's having this huge negative impact on just about the entire world. They don't know when it's going to start making money, and we're also getting very, very sick of having AI shoved in our faces all the time. And we're pretty scared about what this is going to do to the job market and the very idea of art itself. Art as a concept is basically in jeopardy right now. But back to the subject at hand, Blackley has this to say on Microsoft's big AI push. "I think the rules are different now. Again, it's important to understand Microsoft and the context of the scale of the bet. It's an unprecedented monetary and strategic bet that they've made in AI, in the history of business. That's not the same as Sega deciding how to gracefully go out of business. This is a company that is trying to recontextualize the way we think about technology in its entirety. They've decided that the lever point that's going to do that is generative AI models. They're looking to fit everything into a generative AI model. It's like the thing people say about having a hammer and everything is a nail. That's incredibly true of Microsoft right now. Everything is a Gen AI problem. Games, of course, are a Gen AI problem. This is why I say this makes perfect sense. If you're Satya, you have a hammer called Gen AI, and every single problem is a nail. Okay, so who do you put in charge of games? A games person? No, because in the world of Satya, everything is a Gen AI problem, so you put a Gen AI person in charge of games with a training model with boot camps for her to train her like you train an AI model to bring Gen AI into a position to revolutionize games. Again, he's not wrong. Like, it's technically speculation and no one can know what the actual outcomes will be, but we're seeing this ourselves. These companies are betting on AI. Like it's seriously a bet. They're throwing everything they have at it. All eggs in this basket. They truly believe that AI is the future. Not just the future, but basically the entire future. It is all they care about. Before we continue dooming and glooming, a quick reminder that this video was brought to you by Squarespace. As always, Squarespace is the easiest way to make a website, even if you've never made one in your life. Their intuitive builder lets you do just about anything you want. Formatting text, embedding pictures and video, moving stuff around. It's so easy, you'll never have to write a single line of code. And before you know it, you'll have a super nice looking website. With Squarespace, you can do so much. Something personal, something for your business. My site, Arlo Recommends, is a blog, so it's like super mega ultra simple, and there are all these little time-saving features, so I can just draft up a bunch of posts, schedule them to publish, and even generate social media posts later, and I am done. If I ever need more, there are lots of powerful extensions to tap into, and of course, we can't forget the lovely suite of analytics that help you keep tabs on how your site is doing. To try out Squarespace for yourself, head to squarespace.com for a free trial, then when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/Arlo to save 10% off your first website or domain. And now, for today's recommendation, Verminubis. I'm only just starting to dig into his channel, so there better not be any weird stuff in there, because I'm recommending it, but so far, I've watched several very good videos, particularly his more recent ones on Metroidvania map design. Very, very nice. Thanks again to Squarespace. The rest of the video is waiting for you. Please see to it. Again, you really cannot compare this to disruptive technological advancements of the past. You can't. This truly is unprecedented. This is something that's never happened before. And when things are this chaotic, when the rules are being rewritten this quickly, there's almost no theoretical outcome too outlandish. When chatbots first hit the scene, we laughed at how inaccurate they were and how unnatural they sounded. Well, now they're just about perfect. When we saw the first AI-generated images, we laughed at how it couldn't seem to get fingers right. Well, now it can. When people first posted freakish AI-generated videos with the claim that this would one day replace traditional filmmaking, we laughed. Now there are AI videos that look perfect. They look basically perfect, and even the AI itself is having a hard time sniffing out what's real and what's fake. This is really happening. Microsoft has insisted that AI won't replace people. This is strictly untrue. It's just a lie. They've lied plenty of times over the years, just like any other big company. They've also said a lot of stuff about Xbox as a brand that has run counter to their actions. They say one thing, they do another. Right now, they're insisting that Xbox is still important to them. They insist that they want to keep making and publishing games, and if they're using AI, it's just as a tool to empower the creatives who are making the games. But it is of course true that overall, the games business is extremely volatile, and Xbox has been struggling a ton for decades. Okay, I love Blackley's insight here. One of the things I ran across in my career in games, having interfaced with Hollywood and tech and all these different companies and different cultures, business cultures, is that games almost always represent an unexpected, much higher than wagered challenge. One assumes that it's technology, and it's not technology. It just happens to depend on technology. One assumes that it's a service, and it's not. One assumes that it's a purely creative business. People come in and say, we'll bring movie directors to do games. They also fail because technology is an important part. It's a difficult wall to scale because it's games. One thing that I've learned across my career is that everyone believes they're a game developer. Everyone thinks they're a game designer. There's something about games. When you play them, they seem so effortless. There's an assumption that anyone can do it. this can also get you in a lot of trouble. Asha's statement in there about how she'll figure it out reminds me a lot of that. I've been around a lot of that. I had Bill Gates say that to me. I've had Steven Spielberg say that to me. I've had a lot of really smart people say, basically, that line to me. It's funny for me to see that in there as well. Once more, he ain't wrong. No one person, no one studio, no one multi-billion-dollar corporation has managed to pin down precisely what makes for a good game that is guaranteed to turn a big profit. In a field like this that is simultaneously so creative and so technical, it's just not possible. It's just not. It makes perfect sense to me that if Microsoft could get away from that volatility, then they probably would. But they don't want to leave money on the table, do they? And so right here is where we should talk about the biggest argument that Microsoft isn't sunsetting Xbox and wouldn't sunset Xbox. The brand has been struggling, but still making money. Their first-party games didn't sell Xboxes, but they're pulling in some pretty good revenue now that they're being published to other platforms. Some Xbox games are actually doing remarkably well on PlayStation. And of course, Game Pass has been a huge moneymaker, basically their biggest moneymaker. You could easily argue that overall, it may be responsible for eroding the brand and causing more long-term problems, but the cash has at least been flowing in. Microsoft will want to keep that going as long as it's beneficial to do so. So while I'm a little more doubtful that Microsoft would just axe the Xbox brand entirely, just like flush it down the toilet, I do think it's possible that they are expecting the landscape itself to change so dramatically that for all intents and purposes, the brand will be dead. Just last year, we saw Microsoft do their little Quake 2 experiment where they got a semblance of a version of the game running exclusively on AI. It was rough, it was sloppy, it was not really a game, but it was getting there. And just like text or images or videos, it will get there someday. I completely agree with Blackley that from Microsoft's point of view, future games will be entirely AI generated. Like he says, whether you think that's true or whether it does end up being true, that's what they at least believe. And it's clear in everything they do. And if they believe that, then the very idea of paying programmers and artists to make a game is now antiquated. It's something that will soon be entirely unnecessary. Seeing things from their point of view and picturing a future where Xbox is still a brand, and you know what, maybe even it's still a box. Maybe eventually the AI will get so good and use little enough power that it can run on a box in your living room instead of streaming from data centers. But whatever the case, the vision of a future where Xbox is pretty much just a place to play AI-generated games is just too plausible. Again, not like the actual future itself, but the vision as seen by Microsoft. It is too easy to see them seeing the future that way. The very idea of Xbox as it is now may just not be compatible with their vision. And if that's the case, then why would they want to keep moving forward with it? Big tech is currently betting everything on an AI-dominated future in essentially all possible fields. Why wouldn't video games be one of those fields? And if so, then the current model is outdated, and they're probably just waiting for the chance to fire as many programmers and artists as possible and shut down as many studios as possible and switch everything that they can over to AI. Xbox might not even be a game developer or publisher. It would be a service where you play games generated by small teams typing out prompts. Maybe games generated just for you. It seems overly dramatic, doesn't it? It seems sensational. It seems so crazy that it must not be true. And yet, look at the trajectory. Just look at the direction we're heading. Look at all the variables. What's going to change that trajectory? What's going to change the variables? Microsoft sells games, but the people running the company do not care about games. They do not understand games. Games are a means to an end, a way to make money, pure and simple. But even the most avid gamer is not going to be able to predict what the market will do or to guarantee a big hit. And I'm sure Microsoft would do anything in their power to mitigate that unpredictability and streamline the game creation process. Can they possibly succeed in this way? Well, on that note, when asked for advice that Mr. Blackley would give the new head of Xbox, he had this to say. If I was talking to her, I would say, look, if you're not really passionate about games, or if you can't develop a passion for games, then you should find a way to leave this job soon. You shouldn't do it, because it's harder than you think. You're a very smart person who's accomplished a lot in your career. You're going to think I'm wrong, but you will discover that I'm right. There's a long history of extremely smart people in games who have hit this wall. Truer words have never been spoken. Year after year after year, again and again and again, these corporate big shots claim that they know what's up. They know exactly how to make a big money-making blockbuster game. All you gotta do is give them a bunch of money and they'll do it. They're mega rich and they're copying everyone's homework, so there's no way they can fail. Even very smart people, even people who seem poised for success, and yet time and time again, they do fail. I've got a whole video coming up on King of Meat. You know that game that Amazon probably paid Mr. Beast a literal fortune to advertise and that barely cracked a few hundred concurrent players at its peak? Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. Stay tuned for that. Will AI render expensive failures like this a thing of the past? Is it really the future of games? And is it true that the suits on the top floor of Microsoft are quietly planning to sunset Xbox, at least as we know it? Maybe, maybe not. But it's too compelling of an idea for me to ignore. Just fascinating to think about. Well, thank you for watching, and if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go outside and look at a tree and try to forget literally everything I talked about in this video.